Welcome back to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike.
My name's Kason.
On today's episode of our Mass Effect analysis, we're going to be covering Feros and Virmire as our two main story quests. We're getting very close to the end of the game. Next week will be the final episode.
That's freaking crazy.
Right?
This game's so short compared to what we just came from.
So short compared to Xenogears.
Yeah, holy cow, man.
We already have people voting on the next game. We're going to be doing a Final Fantasy game next. I will have announced this on the previous episode.
Of course.
So Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy X, and Final Fantasy VI are the three to vote on.
Yep. Vote on Patreon and or Subscribestar.
Yep. Sign up there at the $5 level or above, and you can vote. Next week will be the final episode, and then week after that we'll get started on a new game. So, let's see here. I wanted to talk a little bit about some side quests before we really jump into the meat of the Feros mission, because one of our larger criticisms of the Citadel in particular was the Sha'ira side quest.
Yes.
At the end of that, she gives you a trinket.
Yes. Yep.
Have you found the side quest in which you put that to use?
I did.
Okay, I want to see what your thoughts are on this.
It's fascinating. Yeah, so what's that planet called, by the way? There's
the planet is called
I can't remember where it is.
Tanya, I think.
Yeah, because I've been all around. I'm having a blast exploring all these planets. But yes, I did find, so it's Altania, right? Mm-hmm. So you go there, you kill a bunch of aliens. It's pretty typical.
For what you do when you're exploring.
Yes, when you're exploring these planets. But you come up to a strange orb, a huge glowing orb that's kind of liquid and reflective, and it just looks really cool.
Yeah, it's like a metallic liquid surface on it. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's Prothean, right?
Because it's like a Prothean ring.
It's based on the Protheans, and as the Protheans were observing the Earthling peoples, the cavemen, basically, from a long, long time ago. And and I guess they were on Mars, and they were watching Earth people. Now, I'm a little confused about what happened. I had in my notes to ask you about this. What do you think of the moments where it goes into a narrative, kind of a story within just the dialogue boxes?
Yeah, it's just
It does this several times. But this one gave me some near vibes of just you're living a separate life. It felt like to me that Shepard literally lived months and months in this other a separate life, and then and then came back.
Yes,
that's freaking crazy.
Yes,
it didn't feel that way at first. Well, it did feel that way, I guess, but it didn't. I didn't feel like I was supposed to read it that way. If it was supposed to be just a quick flash, or if it was really supposed to be
long,
he actually
experienced a life of a caveman, essentially.
It seemed that way.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, I remember.
And then he just comes back and he's like, "Oh, there's nothing."
So the first time I came across this, the text-based sort of way in which it gets it across is possibly just a time constraint thing. I mean, they're not going to build a whole separate game within a game almost, where you're running around like a caveman, right, and playing through that. I wouldn't expect them to do that.
This does happen elsewhere, though. This isn't the only place.
I feel like there's a remnant of text-based adventure style delivery of certain things.
Yes, for sure.
Chrissy was watching me play Resident Evil 4 a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And she thought it was really strange or awkward when you approach the table with a nasty pot full of gross stuff in it, and it'll sit there and it's you look into the pot and you see blah 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 blah.
Yes.
She's like, "What? Why is it doing that? You can just look at it."
It's a remnant of an old game.
But it's games were transitioning into this cinematic sort of presentation on that PS2, PS3 era. It was going through a longer sort of gradual transitional phase into strictly cinematic presentation.
Yeah.
And so some of these games still you'd see little bits of what inspired or what it started out as decades before that, where they had to describe literally everything.
What was happening? Literally everything.
So it feels a little bit like that, but
it feels strange. But I feel like I get why it's there. It kind of helps things move along. Like sometimes this happened either Feros or Virmire. I can't remember which one. But at the very end, once you've done everything, once you've beat the boss, so to speak. You'll get a little dialogue. I think it was Virmire actually. You'll get a little dialogue option that says, you then. No, what's like return to the Normandy basically. You don't have to go back through the whole thing. Like return to Normandy ? You say okay, and then it says something along the lines of, Commander Shepard cleaned up things and fixed everything up right, and then returned to the Normandy, and then you're there, right?
Yep.
But that almost feels like a movie edit kind of thing.
Sure.
Instead of having you go back out or having a fast travel thing or something like that, they just threw in some text that was like, "Okay, you're done here." I don't know why they had to narrate it, not spoken narrative, but why it had to be narrated in the text, saying something that was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Now this one's less obvious, but it's fascinating. It really reminds me of Nier.
This is definitely the longest of that sort of text narration that they do in this game. It's like several paragraphs long, describing that Shepard lives almost a life of some primordial human,
some random person
who was being observed by the Protheans. They inserted something into his head.
Oh,
yes. He could feel the lump
feel it. Yeah.
on the back of his head, right?
Yeah.
And he went and hunted and lived his normal life or whatever. Yep. But then, there was another time, obviously, where they came to extract the thing that they had put in them, and then they take it for study, right? But at the time that I had played this game for the first time, I grew up being more of a Star Wars kid, right, than a Star Trek kid.
Oh, of course.
My mom really liked Star Trek, and I would watch it with her sometimes, but I was not terribly familiar with Star Trek in general. Mm-hmm. So when I first played this, I thought this was the craziest thing ever. I was like, oh, that's such a cool concept. But it's pretty much lifted out of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Really? Exactly?
There's an episode on TNG, Season 5, Episode 25, which is called The Inner Light. And in that episode, Picard sort of finds himself as a person living in this community on some world. And he's like, I shouldn't be here. What's going on? I'm a starship captain. And he's he lives almost a full, second half of a person's life, because he has a wife.
Okay,
he has
starts
children,
in the middle. Yeah.
Right? And essentially he lives all the way out to this person's death. And he's a scientist who's trying to deal with, I can't remember what the threat was. It was something to do with climate change or something on this planet. The planet's essentially doomed. And he's trying to work to find out how to save it, but he can't do so. He lives the entire life of this person, and eventually comes to accept that his memories of being a starship captain were delusions. He has children, grandchildren on this world, lives this whole life, and then at the end of the episode, he wakes back up as the captain. He's he's changed as a person, almost instantaneously to everyone on the Enterprise. But for him, it's he lived a whole lifetime as somebody else. Wow. And so because Picard is he really doesn't like children in the earlier seasons of Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. He's
a very rigid, kind of by the book kind of starship captain. He doesn't like kids very much, and he learns to love children after this episode.
Oh, nice.
And really changes and softens up, becomes more the grandfather people remember Picard to be even though he wasn't really that way in the show very much. Anyways, it's a similar thing going on here. It's Shepard lives the life of this caveman, and I just love that. I do concept.
Too. That's actually part of the Chronicles of Narnia, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. They live out their life in Narnia.
Oh,
basically.
Yeah, that's true.
They're adults, and then they come back
as kids again.
And then they're kids again, and then they come back to the real world, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a cool concept, and
it's fascinating.
And it feels obviously it's kind of paired with the Shaira side quest.
Yes.
But it feels so random or unprompted when it happens. It feels like just like an emergent part of like exploring the galaxy.
Yes.
And it's just like it hits you out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that was really cool.
It was very cool. It was very cool.
It was just really, really interesting.
But it's one of those things where, let's say they tried to have it be in-game instead of just explained through text.
Yeah.
That would have been weird.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have liked it as much.
Yeah.
And it would have been a crazy just diversion, a just detraction from the actual game. But in its narrative form, in its condensed, how it is now, it fits very well.
Yeah.
So.
And I also think it fits with kind of just Prothean culture in general as something that they would try to record.
Oh, yeah.
Like, right, because with the whole thing with the cipher we're going to get into later, which is like ancestral memory, it's all very Carl Jung, collective unconscious. That's like how the Protheans' brains worked.
Okay,
they
right.
like inherited like ancestral memories. And like they had an understanding of like the full picture of like the whole race.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening when Shepard approaches the beacon, the Prothean beacon. He's having like the whole Prothean history like inserted into his brain.
Put into his brain.
But there's almost
to a non-Prothean, it's just nonsense.
It's just like, whoa, this is overload. I can't handle it. My brain doesn't work like this.
Right.
But the Prothean brain, and I think the way that the Asari explains it later is something like, it's like trying to describe color to someone who doesn't have eyes or something like that. There's a different sensory ability that the Protheans had regarding this collective unconscious idea that we don't have. And so it's very hard to interpret their messages through the Prothean beacons. Anyways, so it would make sense that they would be interested in collecting like lifetimes worth of experiences from the people that they are observing, because that's how they would study it. That's how they would understand it. So it's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Any other side quests of note that you'd like to touch on before we jump into Feros?
Oh gosh, there was one or so, but I can't really. I probably couldn't say specifics. I don't remember.
Did you chose the sole survivor Aku's background for Shepard,
Aku's,
right?
yeah. Aku's and Spacer.
Yeah, so I did too. So I came across at least one side quest where there was another survivor from Aku's.
Yes.
And he had been taken and studied.
That's the one. So there were multiple survivors, and the reason the Aku's thing happened was apparently because of a company. Well, I can't remember what the company was called. There's a couple of them.
There's a bunch of like ExoGeni, and like a bunch of Cerberus and some others. Yeah.
So
I think this one was Cerberus, if I'm
There
not
was a
mistaken.
science experiment that was like, hey, we're just going to use these people, right?
Yeah.
And the whole disaster happened. I still don't have a clear picture as to what happened on Aku's, but everyone keeps saying, oh, it was amazing, you survived, good job, you're amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not yet completely built out for me. But yeah, we come across this guy that we know, and he recognizes us, and we're just like, wait, I thought I was the only survivor. And this guy's been experimented on, like, for basically his whole life. And I guess he broke out, and he's seeking revenge on
he's
all
on
of the engineers
who
and all the scientists.
Experimented on him,
Yeah, and my understanding was that he hadn't killed anyone yet. This would have been the first person that he would kill. Because he's like, yeah, I'm not going to become a murderer because of this. If you do the Paragon options, you talk him out of it. And he's like, okay, I won't become, implying that he has not yet become a real murderer. But when you first see the situation, you're like, dude, he's killed a bunch of people. He's been doing this for a long time. Yeah. And he shows up, and now we got to stop him. But the guy actually agrees with him and says, I didn't realize something, and I'll tell people about it. I'll make this public or something, right? Is that correct, or am I thinking of a different one?
I think you end up just arresting him, because you can talk him out of killing him with like your Paragon.
That guy. Oh, you're right. Maybe I'm thinking of another one. There's another time where, because I did a ton of these missions.
There's a ton of side quests. Yeah,
there's another one where you can convince someone that they should go and
that might have been on Feros.
Reveal.
There's what's her name? Lisbeth.
I think you're right.
The daughter of Juliana,
yes,
who works for ExoGeni or whatever. I can't remember, but anyways.
But there was another one too. Even still, there was another one where you find this. It was part of a quest from I forget all the names, but from the main central place.
Yes, the Citadel.
The Citadel,
Yeah.
and you find her, and she wants you to kill her leader, and she's doing all this illegal stuff, but she's super rich, and she has a really good lawyer, apparently.
Oh,
so
yeah.
she can get out of anything. Well, you end up finding her later on, running this operation, and she's basically like, hey, you can't get me, I'm above the law, just let me go, pretend none of this happened, and we'll call it even, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I chose the perfect Paragon option or not, but I ended up killing her. I ended up like, hey, no, the law's the law, we're going to bring you in. And she's like, that's not going to happen. And she pulls out a gun, and you end up just killing everybody in the room.
Yeah.
But that was another mission.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one now.
Yeah,
I did that one too.
The woman.
You find her on like a freighter out in space.
Oh, is that what it was?
Or was it?
I thought it was on a
No,
planet.
it was on a planet.
It
You're
could have
right.
been on an asteroid
It
or
was
something.
on a planet. And you fight through there, and then I remember that one.
Yeah.
I did that.
So she became the new warlord person.
Yep.
But then we're like, no, not you
Oh,
either.
because it was all tied to study of the Thorian, I think.
Oh,
right?
was that it?
Yeah. So
okay.
there were a bunch of people who when the Thorian is killed after you finish the Feros mission or whatever, they lost control of their subjects on this world or something like that too. Yeah. And
oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So the Thorian, we kill the Thorian, and on the other planet where they were studying it, all of a sudden it kind of
it's like the connection, the Thorian connection was broken, and then they kind of lost control in their lab there.
Yes.
And she's like,
right.
Nothing needs to be
right.
reported on this. Yes, it does, and then she tries to kill you.
The amount of science experiments that go horribly wrong in this game.
In the Attica Traverse,
It's like, holy crap, it's crazy.
There's a lot going on. So Akuz, I pulled it up here.
Okay.
So it says, if Commander Shepard has the sole survivor background, the commander is the only known Marine to make it out of Akuz alive. If Shepard meets Officer Eddie Lang on the Citadel with this background, Lang will comment on a monument at Akuz and an entire section dedicated to Commander Shepard, suggesting that the colony of Akuz survived the Thresher Maw massacre, or at least that a new one was established in its place. Shepard can later discover that there was another survivor, Corporal Toombs, who's who you find, right? Who claims the slaughter at Akuz was not an accident. According to Toombs, the renegade Black Op group Cerberus deliberately set the Thresher Maws on the Marines to study the creatures and see how the unit reacted. And then they recovered Toombs and some others who were not dead. Shepard had assumed he was the only one who lived through this attack, but they basically studied him. And so, he was after revenge on those Cerberus scientists who did that to him.
But
so that was a good one.
We talk him down. They also mentioned something about it when you go back to the Citadel and you're riding an elevator, and it says something like, it's been revealed that a horrible experiment happened on Akuz, and you're just like, riding the elevator. And it's so funny riding that elevator after you've done a significant amount of things within the game, because the news is about what you've done.
Yes, exactly.
But they don't really mention you.
Yeah.
They just say, something weird happened on, what's that planet we talked about last time with all the science experiments and Peak 15?
Novaria.
Yeah, Novaria.
Yeah.
A science lab in Novaria has completely collapsed and been destroyed, but we don't know why yet. And
It's
they're
really still investigating it.
I enjoy those. I
So
like those a lot.
I think depending on the background you choose, whether you're Earthborn or Soul Survivor or whatever, it will change which side quest you encounter.
On that planet?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's on that planet or that freighter or wherever it is, or if it's different, a totally different place. I'd have to get through on my other Shepard playthroughs, which I was not able to get quite as far on because I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
But and I'm doing all the side quests on my first playthrough, but not on the other ones because I'm rushing through the missions to try to catch up.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing a lot of the side quests on those. But I'm pretty sure that these missions change depending on what your background is. So that's another way that your background affects the game, right?
Right. It's pretty cool, actually, because I was thinking when I first made the decisions of who my character was going to be.
Yeah.
They mentioned it at the beginning. They're like, you show toughness. You were the only survivor on Akuz. And I thought it was going to be left to that, more or less, that it wasn't going to continually be re-mentioned over and over.
Yeah.
This was a pleasant surprise to see that they've really carried out this story, and it makes me very interested. because of my FOMO, to want to know what all the other ones that I didn't pick and
what would those have turned out like.
what those would have turned out like.
Here's the one thing that I like about short games is
you can
related to this. When they give you a lot of choices, it's
Yeah.
a very choose-your-own-adventure style story like this. When you can beat it quickly, it makes it nice to be like, I can finish a run and then start over and choose totally different stuff and see what happens. And you get like more or less the same play time.
Gives you a reason to play it again.
Yeah, a same play time out of Mass Effect as you would for, say, something like Xenogears if you wanted to, but you can play through it several times. And I feel like I retain more that way. Right? When I just play a game once and it's very long, it's like there's so much info to remember. It wasn't until my second visit on the podcast of Xenogears that a lot of it started to stick. And it's now I really got a handle on it.
Yeah.
Which is why when there's shorter games, even like Chrono Trigger, which is much shorter, but there's many different endings, I like that because you can just like pick it up and replay it again. And it just, for me, it helps me remember everything, keep it all in order, like understand it better. So I prefer shorter games for that reason, particularly RPGs that let you make choices.
You know, I'm remembering when I was really young, when I was like 10 or so, I read a Choose Your Own Adventure book, and first I was very confused by it. Second off,
were you just switching
I
page
didn't
by
like
page
it.
by page? Oh.
Yeah, well, because it said, you know, you pick this, go to this page. And I'm like,
page.
it felt weird skipping all those pages to go to that one thing. And I was like, what am I doing? And I'm reading that, but I feel like I'm missing stuff, you know? So I basically, after the first time, and I kind of got where it was going, I never finished that book. I never really read much of it. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like just the idea of you pick a thing and you skip over all this other stuff to read the next thing. I don't like that. I don't like that. It's more tangible in a book.
Sure.
Because you see what you've skipped. You know, in a game, you don't know till later what you missed out on. But.
Sure. Let's see. I also did all of those like destroy the Geth bases side quests.
I did a couple of those. I don't know if I did all of them. But.
Yeah, I think there's 3 worlds they want you to go through. They're all in the same system or the same cluster.
I probably did.
Same star cluster.
Yeah.
You go destroy the 3 Geth bases, and it's like, oh, we've triangulated like their 4th like real stronghold in the system.
Yes.
Because Hackett gives you these missions. He calls in as like,
once you
Shepherd. Yes. I really like his voice. He's got a cool voice actor, but you know, we got this problem going on here. You're the only one who can take it.
We're not going to make it formal. We just need you to help us out. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, oh, there's a Geth incursion in the, I don't know if it's Ada Hawking or which star cluster it's in. Anyways, you triangulate to their actual like stronghold. You go there and destroy it. You gather a lot of like really important intel on the Geth by doing this, and then you can essentially give that to Tali. Tali will come to you
she
and be
asks.
like, hey, this would be really good for me to take home to, you know, the flotilla for my pilgrimage. And you can choose to give it to her or not.
Yeah.
So I really liked that one too, and how it tied into her.
There was another one that I remember doing, but it was about there were more of what are the insect species?
The Rachni.
The Rachni. There's more Rachni somewhere else, right?
Yep. There's a
so
couple.
I thought that at that one at the planet, was it Novaria?
Novaria.
That was the only Rachni left.
They had another lab.
But there was another,
elsewhere.
and then the Rachni were attacking a bunch of humans and were basically killing them all. And so we show up to help them kind of fight it off. And that was another one. I can't remember what happens there. There's a woman that's kind of in command of that whole fleet, and it's kind of cool because it's one of those where you set up the defenses and there's the gun and everything, and you can tell people where to be, and then it comes. It's almost like what are those games called? Like a castle defense or those types of games, and then they all come and you're just like, or like the Nazi zombie mode back in the Call of Duty games.
Just taking out all the
you wait, you know they're coming, you're just waiting, and then they all show up, and if you've prepared well, then you can do it. You know, that was super fun too.
Yeah, and then another one I really liked, another Hackett sort of like mission he gives to you. And you kind of mentioned this, but each time you just kind of like go into a system, if there's something to do there, Hackett will just come on and tell you, hey, we need you to do this.
And I like it. From a gameplay perspective, I like it. It's weird story-wise, but gameplay-wise, it's awesome, so I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, so he talks about like a probe that had like a nuke built into it, basically.
Yeah.
That they had been using during First Contact War. They just kind of sent them through mass relays to like go out and explore, but like be ready to self-destruct, like if it encounters an enemy or something like that.
Doesn't sound familiar.
And essentially, this one was just one of those that got lost and went through the relay system, and ended up way over here.
Just chilling in the middle of
space.
space.
And they're like, we need you to go like disarm that or recapture it or something.
If I did that.
Who knows, like if someone were to pick this up, like what they could uncover, or there'd be sanctions on us, or we just need that thing recovered. We received its distress signal in this area, like go there. So you go, I don't know. Should I like continue, or do you want to try and like play this one?
No, please tell me. I'm not too concerned about the side.
So
the side
you go up, and essentially it was recovered on purpose. And this is another one that's tied to the background of the character.
Yeah.
There was.
Oh, really?
And I can't remember which one I was playing this on now that I think about it. It might not have been Soul Survivor. It might have been one of the other ones. Anyways, it might have been the Colonist one or something. So it's one of the. No. I think this is for the hero background, where like you fought off like a raid or something like that. So there's like Soul Survivor, there's Ruthless, and then there's one that's like Heroic or something like that. War Hero. Against an overwhelming enemy force, you risked your life to save fellow soldiers. I think that was the one that I was on when I encountered this. Maybe that's why you haven't, because you said you tried to do like all the
side but quests, I can't say I did them all though. But I would go to different clusters and check things out and observe. What's the word? Analyze just tons of planets and stuff and drop down on them. But I can't say I did all of them. But I did as many as I felt like would be fun to do.
In any case, there's like a crime lord who was like really prolific at the time, who was responsible for that attack. And you fighting him off like made him lose a ton of standing, or basically he was like on top of the crime world because you were able to fight off this attack.
As a hero?
As a war hero, I think.
Okay, yeah.
You fight off this attack.
Yeah.
And like he basically has lost his criminal empire because of that since then. Right. And so he recovered this and set off that distress signal to lure you in, to detonate
just
you
to kill
inside
you.
of. And so you have to basically fight your way back out of that, to like disable the warhead and end up killing him. So that was like a pretty cool little side quest.
That's pretty cool.
Tied to that particular background. Anyways, there's a lot of really interesting little episodic, cool little side quests to do.
Yeah.
We can't possibly go over all of them.
There's just so much.
Yeah, I played a lot of them.
Those are some of the notable ones. And before I did Feros, I did go back, or maybe it was after Feros. Either way, before Virmire for sure. I did go back to the Citadel and just kind of walk around and talk to people. There's different stuff. I mean, there's more people. There's more situations. That dude is still trying to get a refund from the shop, from the shop run by the Garrus race. The Turian. Yeah. And the guy runs a shop. There's always this dude who's like, hey, I don't have a receipt, but I need you to give my money back. And it's like, and the Turian will like refund other people because they have a receipt. And he's like, it's so funny. The guy's always there trying to get a refund every time I've gone back. But I've noticed too, there's a ton of interesting like ethical conundrums surrounding people on the Citadel. That one of the ways that you can tell that they've done a pretty good job creating a moral dilemma in a game or a story is if you, after the story, decades later, encounter a similar dilemma in real life. And it's that's fascinating, especially because most moral dilemmas will split people kind of 50-50 in terms of what would or should you do. And so what you do in the game versus when you read about it or encounter it later on in life may actually be quite different. And anyways, it's pretty funny. There is just the whole concept of a lab that leaks a horrible mankind ending like threat. And anyways, pretty good stuff. Doing some doing some risky research in a lab that affects everybody, and it's like, what did you do? And then this last one is Saren. Well, this is the Virmire thing, so maybe we could talk about this a little bit later.
Okay.
But Saren talking about whether it's worth living as a
Yes.
slave or whether it's worth dying to be free.
That was
Very,
a pretty
very
interesting
interesting
conversation,
stuff.
and we will get into that later.
Yeah, we're
but
gonna get
it
into that
casts
later.
kind of a new light on Saren right at the end
It
of the game.
really does, and my suspicion was correct, it seems, about the ship.
Oh, right.
But I did not know that before. So that was kind of interesting.
Okay.
All right.
So let's jump into Feros here.
Let's do it.
So there's the 3 initial missions. You can do them in any order, whether it's Liara's dig site, Noveria, and Feros. You could go to Feros first, or a lot of people in the comments have been like, "Oh, I've never done anything but Feros first." So
it's the top option, I think, on the 3. It's the
so it's
first
like
one, the
it's
default.
interesting. Which order you choose this in. I like at least to get Liara before doing
Yeah.
Noveria. But then we discussed how it might actually be better not to do that because it's so awkward.
It ruined,
the way it plays
it ruined
out.
the scene. Just killed it.
Like,
Yeah.
conceptually, it makes more sense to have Liara with you.
Yeah.
But in practice, it feels weird.
In practice.
Anyways, that was
Didn't work
last time. Feros is a really interesting planet because, so I guess we haven't really talked about yet, like how the galaxy is sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, like divided in terms of like the Citadel space versus Attican Traverse versus Terminus systems versus the Perseus Veil where the Geth space is versus Batarian space.
Right. You
I'll
just see the Milky Way and you don't assume where anything is.
I'll put a map on the screen in post so that you guys can see it, the way it's broken up. But it's like, more or less, if you were to split like the galaxy in half, most of the lower portion of the galaxy is Citadel space.
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, the sort of the right half of it is more Alliance-specific space, right? Which is a part of Citadel space now.
Right.
But the Alliance really kind of dominates like the lower right quadrant, if you were to split the galaxy into a quadrant like that. And then like the lower left quadrant is mostly like Citadel races and all of that. There's a small portion at the very bottom where like the Batarians are. And so I made this clarification in the episode that went up last week. I made an addendum note. The Batarians are not at all, they've totally isolated themselves from the Citadel Council and everything else. So we were wondering, we didn't see any Batarians on the Citadel.
Right.
Yeah, they chose on purpose. They're a very disreputable sort of like species, right? They're very involved in criminal organizations and things like that for the most part. That's usually where you see them. But yeah, they isolated on purpose. They chose not to join the Citadel Council or the Citadel races. So they're not a part of that society at all. But they have like a little region towards the bottom. That's like Batarian space. Then you have the Attican Traverse, which is kind of hard to explain. It's more like the central region of the galaxy. But it's technically Citadel space. It's a frontier. It's like there's a lot of unsettled worlds and...
That's why they set up the colonies, right?
Yes.
Because it's like you're a colonist, just the same as the colonies were set up, from the Western world coming over. It's like you go live over here and help expand the empire.
Yes.
And you're doing a good thing.
But you're not going to get the same resources in terms of
it's
military
hard.
support.
It's rough. Yeah.
And if pirates come and raid you, like you're on your own.
You're on your own, yeah.
So that's what the Attican Traverse is. And this is where a lot of those corporations like Exogeny and Cerberus are out doing their shady experiments and things like that because they can get away with it out there.
Right.
Because while, they're vulnerable to, the Terminus systems or the Geth coming in and attacking them, they are also able to get away from the prying eyes of the law out there, and they can do things sort of the way that they want to, behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So that's the Attican Traverse. Then you have the Terminus systems, which are at the very top, and that's essentially where they find out that the conduit is at.
Yeah.
Which is why. At the end of this is probably going to be more talked about in the next episode, but that's where Saren goes at the end, and it's like, we
Right.
got to send a fleet in there, so we can't risk a war with the Terminus systems. Right?
That's my question. Explain that to me. The Terminus system, is it a separate alliance of other races that is at odds with the Citadel and our alliance?
I think,
or is it just like Nomad?
It's similar, I think, to like the Batarians, right, who chose not to be a part. Okay. But it's like more than just one species.
Yeah, so it seems like...
So here, you can see it on the map here. This is the Terminus systems up here, right? So this is the Attican Traverse through the center. But this is still technically Citadel space.
It would be considered an invasion.
Yes. So the Terminus systems are located on the far side of the Attican Traverse, way up here, beyond the space administered by the Citadel Council or claimed by the Human Systems Alliance, which is all over here. These systems are populated by a loose affiliation of minor species, united only in their refusal to acknowledge the political authority of the Council or adhere to the Citadel Conventions.
Okay, so they don't work together, but they would if the Citadel exerted its influence. It's like they would band together like that. They
just
and say,
don't want to be part of the Citadel, but they are a loosely affiliated sort of like group. It's like I would maybe term that more as a like what do you call it? An anarchist sort of sector of space where it's like they kind of just like do things however they want, and they will band together if necessary just to fight the Citadel if they tried to invade, but they just don't want to be bound by their laws and conventions.
Okay.
So that's basically what's going on there.
Interesting.
So Feros, going back to that, is in the Attican Traverse, right?
Okay.
And in the Attican Traverse, there are a lot of worlds that were highly populated by Protheans. So there's like a whole Prothean city on Feros. These huge skyscrapers and just sprawling city that is all Prothean ruins.
Huh. I don't think I got that. I thought it was built...
So ExoGeny...
It looks like just a modern city.
ExoGeny, who is the company who is colonizing this world, they are repurposing a lot of these structures that were Prothean structures to run their colony and run their experiments, what they're doing here. And in particular, as you come to learn through the mission, they're there studying the Thorian.
The Thorian.
Species 37.
Are there any scientists in this game doing like honest research?
It appears not. At least not out in the Attican Traverse. So like maybe in Citadel space you'd find more of that.
Maybe.
But out in the Attican Traverse,
not in the Citadel specifically.
They're all doing shady stuff out there. Scientists are bad in this game, always. So the ExoGeny Corporation founded a pilot colony. It's not a very populated one. Again, because anywhere out in the Attican Traverse, you're just so open to get attacked.
And they're looking for recruits. It almost seems like they pay people to come live there.
Yes.
Where it's
they have
please
to,
come out.
It's so risky.
Yeah, it's basically like you're joining the military, going out and living on a colony.
So it's a pilot colony on Feros, which they're out there exploring Prothean ruins that blanket 2/3 of the planet's landmass. It was a huge Coruscant-like Prothean world. So, like, I'm thinking about it, and it's like, wow, what could they learn about the Protheans there? But it's so risky because of all the pirates and stuff that it's like, it's just...
It's so funny. They're looking for all this Prothean technology, and there's this whole Prothean city planet, and it's like, it's can't go there.
Being fought over. The resources or the study of that would be fought over by species from the Terminus systems and the Citadel.
They'd have to bring the whole military over there.
Right, and so it's just one of those worlds that they just don't have the resources yet.
It's so funny because at the beginning of the game, you're thinking, wow, the Citadel controls everything. These are powerful people with the biggest military, and it's the Galactic Federation, and they can do whatever they want to do. And as you continue to play the game, you realize just how limited they are and how little they can really do, and how little, I wouldn't say little power they have, because in their sphere of influence, they have tons of power, but how little power they have if you just take one step outside of their little boundary. And it's like, and not just into a new place, but I'm talking I don't know. It just seems like they are unwilling to enforce most of their laws, like most of the time. It's like, dang, it's crazy.
But what's also interesting about this to me is that it's usually out here in the Attic Traverse, the frontier, right, of the galaxy, that human corporations are taking the risks to go try to colonize.
What is it? Because humans' lives are short, we're riskier, we do riskier things, and the Citadel kind of likes that, right? They like that we incur this risk that they don't want to take.
Right.
And we're spreading out.
Which is part of why humanity is gaining such a foothold and influence so fast. I think I overestimated the amount of time when I talked about this earlier. I said it was maybe 50 years since
26.
It's actually been 26 years since the first contact war. In a quarter of a decade or a quarter of a century. Humanity has gained so much influence in this society, and it's because they're willing to go, their corporations are willing to take the risk to go out to a world like Feros and like start doing their science and their expansion and their colonization and all of this. And they get attacked all the time, and they come to the Citadel for help, and the Citadel says, no, it's your fault for going out in the frontier.
It's like you knew the risks.
So anyways,
but don't think that the Citadel won't just completely turn their backs on humans the way they did for the Krogan and for tons of other species. They will absolutely step on you if you go too far. And they apparently have the power to do it. But they're so bureaucratic in what they choose to exercise their power on that it's almost like they're completely useless. It won't be until humans threaten them that all of a sudden they're like, hey, every human's dead now. And then they'll do it, and that'll be that.
Exactly. So in 2178, the Human Exogeny Corporation announced its intention to place a permanent colony on Feros to thoroughly explore the ruins. The pioneer settlement was placed on the upper levels of several intact skyscrapers, using the surviving Prothean aqueducts and rooftop hydroponic gardens to support the population. So this is the world that we're coming to explore. The reason that they've sent us here is because there's been reports of Geth attacks on this world. And if Geth are coming there, that means Saren is sending them. What is it that he is looking for on this planet? Why is he come here, right? So that's basically all we're going on when we arrive. We get there, and essentially the Geth are attacking the colony right when we show up. So you go out and you clean out the tunnels and the aqueducts, and you kind of help some of the people because they have a water and food shortage, a power shortage. You go recover some power cells, you get the water back running again. You hunt some Varens so that they can have some food.
So they can eat.
You take out like the alpha male so that they'll have an easier time hunting. Clear out the Geth. There's like a Geth transmitter that you destroy. So you basically get it so that's okay. You're good for a second, right? We need to go explore the Exogeny headquarters. What is it that the Geth wanted? What was it that they came here for, right? As you're speaking with Phi Dan, who I believe is the kind of like leader of the initial colony you come into. He sort of tries to explain away the strange behavior that's being exhibited by the colonists.
You encounter several people, like in the sewers and all over, that are like freaking out. They're just crazy, and they can't think, and you can tell something's just like eating at their brain. And it's pretty creepy. It's really intriguing as to like what's going on here, and nobody will talk about it. And you'll ask questions, and they'll get mad at you. They'll be like, and it's like you're here to save them, but they are willing to like tell you to leave just to protect the secret that they're all, but in the midst of them all dying. And it's like, this is weird. This is crazy.
It's not like they're necessarily even trying to protect it. It's almost like they cannot reveal it.
That's what it comes out to later, but I didn't notice that at first. My initial thought was these guys are all implicated in something, and they don't want to talk about it. And they're like, go talk to Phi Dan, he'll tell you. And then Phi Dan doesn't tell us either.
Yeah, there were two NPCs in particular. I can't remember the name of the woman, but she's lying down, she's having headaches.
Yes, and there's a dude sitting next to her.
I don't know if it's her husband or just a friend or someone sitting there.
Somebody.
Like, you just need to rest. She says some really suspicious things. And is talking about, anyways. Then you go down into the tunnels themselves, and this is where you meet a guy named Eon Newstead. And he is like on purpose invoking whatever pain comes when he tries to like think for himself.
Yes.
And he says,
he's like, ooh, that was a good one when each time it like comes.
He says specifically he's trying to invoke the master's whip to remind him that he's still alive.
Wow.
So, you know, people who have played through this section, obviously, who are watching the podcast, know they're under the control of the Thorian.
Yeah.
They've been infected by spores from a plant-based life form called the Thorian who can mind control the people.
Yeah.
NJsJ knew this was happening and allowed it to happen in order to study the Thorian. So all these people are infected by the Thorian. So whenever they try to think outside of what the Thorian is directing them to think, it administers pain. Yeah. And so he's doing that to remind himself he's still a person, like he has his own mind, right? The pain reminds me I'm still me. Yeah. I'm not the Thorian controlling me, right? These are my thoughts. So that's what he's doing down there. But he can't say those things. Anytime he tries to mention the Thorian's name or he tries to talk about it, just he just like gets all this shock of pain, right? And he can't really talk about it. So he says, go talk to Fight Ann.
Yeah.
Like, ask him about it, right? Because he just can't get it out. Anyways, Fight Ann continues to try to just like explain it away. We're under a lot of pressure here.
Yes. Yeah.
We're being attacked all the time. People are traumatized, that sort of thing.
And we're like,
but it's like, okay, so we've taken care of you guys. We're going to go into the NJsJ headquarters and find out, try to investigate what the Geth are here for. Along the way, there's sort of like a second outpost where some of the NJsJ leadership is. Yeah. There's a guy, his name was Jeong was his last name.
Yeah,
I can't remember
he's
his first
Asian.
name.
Well, it's Jung.
Ethan. Ethan Jung, I think.
Ethan Jung. It's Korean.
Yeah, and he's sort of like clearly a shady individual trying to protect the secrets of NJsJ, right?
Yes.
And like, I don't know, he's just a jerk. And then so he's sort of arguing with a woman named Juliana there. And they're arguing about like what they should do, right? There are still people, in particular her daughter, trapped in the NJsJ headquarters building.
And the assumption is all those people are dead.
Yeah. Right? And he's trying to like get a handle on the situation. What should I do? What does the company want me to do?
Yes,
And he's kind of freaking out. But obviously he's clearly motivated by protecting the secrets of NJsJ. But you assure her, hey, if we find your daughter while we're in there, we'll bring her out. Right. And we're not interested in your company's secrets. We're just here to stop the Geth. You know, like, just calm down. Like, we're not interested in whatever you're afraid that we're going to find there, right? Anyways, you go in, and when you get in there, it's actually kind of a funny scene. There's a Krogan who's interacting with a virtual intelligence guide sort of interface. And he's like, tell me what I want to know, stupid machine. And he's like, you don't have the clearance for that info. Blah, 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 blah. He's like trying to reason
with the computer.
With the computer.
The VI, not AI, it's a VI.
And it's like, clearly that's getting you nowhere.
Yeah.
And I like it because it's like, if there's nothing else, there's a queue forming behind you. And that's when he looks back and he sees you, and it's like, oh, like you have a firefight with him. But at this point, you've already found Lisbeth, who gives you a clearance.
She shoots at us.
ID.
In fact, there are multiple times in this game where people shoot at us and then immediately they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I thought you were a Geth. But we don't ever shoot back. It immediately goes right into a cutscene.
Yeah.
But it happens multiple times. It's almost a way that they've decided in telling the story how they're going to introduce us to certain characters.
Yep.
Is that we get shot at first. One of the people is a soldier. He's like, actually, I used to be a soldier. I guess that makes it sound even worse because he's so upset that he shot.
Shouldn't have been so triggered.
Yeah, because the soldiers are taught don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes. I don't know how many soldiers actually follow that, by the way, but that is typically the idea. Know exactly who they are before you pull the trigger. And he's just out there like, oh, I'm so sorry. So she tries to shoot us, and then same kind of thing, but we don't shoot her. And if somebody shoots you and you don't shoot back, I don't know, it's just kind of funny. I think they're trying to show how controlled Shepard is and how he he's willing to give people a chance even after they shot at him. You know?
At least if you're on the Paragon path, right? It wouldn't make sense if you're a renegade.
Yes,
guy,
the story thing. Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, she's there, and she's not telling us everything either. But she gives us her clearance card, right?
Yeah.
To like get permission to go all over the base. And is she human? She's human, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I thought so.
So, and then, so using that ID card, you can access the VI and like get classified information and stuff from it.
Yeah.
And this is where you start learning about the Thorian. And the fact that that's actually what NJsJ was studying
and that's
here,
what it is, yeah.
that they allowed the colonists to be infected.
Right.
That within, I think it was like within 21 days, 58% of the colony was infected.
Oh,
By
dang.
27 or 28 days, it was 85%.
It was like
It's just
everybody.
like, it was just spreading like crazy. They all inhibited this this behavior where they were being mind controlled. And this is clearly what Saren is here after, is mind control.
That mind control stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we had already learned about his ship. His ship has some mind control properties. He's looking for the mind control stuff, I guess, to mind control more and more things or people, to make more people or things into slaves, basically.
Yeah. So anyways, you find that out, you then have to go through and like, there's like a Geth ship that's like attached.
That's the coolest thing. When the Geth invade, if they're going to like a building type thing, they got that huge ship that comes in, but it's got like arms like a bug, and it'll like, like attach completely to the building, and then all the Geth come out and kill everything. It's pretty cool.
And so you go through and you like dislodge it, and the ship, like falls.
Yeah.
And you wipe out all the Geth in there. And then you're heading back to the colony to then get some answers and like find out where this Thorian is at and like, free the people's minds from it. And you can kind of come back again to where Ethan Jeong is and where Juliana is. And Elizabeth immediately gets out and she's like going to start running down there.
Yeah.
Now, on my playthroughs, I was not able to get enough Paragon points to be able to do the Paragon option with Ethan here.
Oh, really?
Because he's like, basically the situation is, he gets a call from NJsJ saying, purge this, like bury it. We don't want this to get out at all.
Yes.
And so he's like conflicted, I'm gonna kill you guys or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're talking to him. I assume that if you had enough charm points at this point, I think I had not totally maxed out charm yet. I wasn't quite high enough level. I didn't even have the option. It was like, there's only at a certain level it unlocks the last 2 charm points that you could actually spend points in.
Right.
And I think my Paragon was at like 11 out of 16 total little nodes filled in. Or something like that.
Is there a reason for that? Is there a...
I don't know. You'd have to have insane levels of charm and Paragon, I guess, to be able to convince him not to kill you or try to kill you.
Is it because you did some non-Paragon things in the playthrough?
No, I was almost a 100% Paragon on this. It's just like maybe I could have done... The one thing I hadn't done is gone back to the Citadel and done those side quests at the Citadel yet. You've done that.
I had returned back.
I had not.
I was going to say, this wasn't an issue for me.
Did you have enough Paragon to
I did.
convince Ethan not to
I did,
kill
and
you?
it makes me wonder how... how many side quests I did, whether I did all of them or not, because some people do Feros first, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't know if you'd have enough then, unless there's some kind of scaling system. I've heard that the Legendary Edition, the version I'm playing, has some sort of level scaling involved.
So where it might have scaled.
If you're playing the Legendary Edition, I don't know.
It might have scaled up more than, anyways. I don't know what's going on there, but do you were saying in the last episode that you think you have enough Paragon for the
and I have
stuff.
For literally everything else,
but not this part. That's just crazy. Yeah, for whatever freaking reason, I could do it.
The really dumb thing is that immediately after that, I equipped my grenades or whatever with the mines that you throw. Mm-hmm. I equipped them with the Thorian gas so that you don't kill the colonists as you're going back in and they're all shooting at you.
Yes, that was the
You
plan.
gain an insane amount of Paragon for saving those colonists. So there's 16 of them in total.
Oh, nice.
And if you just knock them out instead of killing them, you get 28 points of Paragon for that.
Sick.
So when that part was done,
then
I'm
it's like
certain I would have had enough.
Yeah.
But it's I don't think that you can just ignore that go handle the Thorian and then come back and,
and then
do
come
that.
back because he's trying to kill you.
So it's like, I think I should have just gone back to the Citadel and done some more side quests and built up my level a little bit so I could max out those last 2 points of charm and then maybe get a little bit more Paragon points, and I would have maybe been able to do that.
Yeah.
But you're saying you did it.
I did, and I wish I paid more attention to specifically how it went down. We were able to talk him down out of it, and we were able to say, hey, like, look, you actually might end up getting the upper hand here. It was something along, I believe it was something along the lines of, do you think that NJsJ is like gonna let you live with this or whatever? Or do you think NJsJ is gonna be okay even if you're able to purge and bury this somehow? Like, what do you think is going to happen to you in the end, or something like that? I believe that was it. I could be wrong.
You basically persuade him to stand down.
And it's just like, okay. All the persuasion things, it always goes by way too fast. It doesn't seem like it would really persuade anybody. but at the same time, it's like, to really convince someone who's willing to kill people to not kill people, that takes like hours. You know, like I appreciate that they showed that it's possible without really going into the depths of how specifically how you would really do it
to persuade somebody.
Yeah, when someone's on that level, they need a lot of talking to. It's not just a few lines, and they're like,
were you there, or had you guys moved already? Do you remember back in Arizona, there was somebody down the road who was threatening to light himself on fire?
Yes, I remember the name too, but I won't say it.
So my dad
because your dad was there
to convince him not to do it.
Yes.
And he brought all of us over to as a means to say, like, you're not going to light yourself on fire in front of all these kids, right? It was like it was like a preventative measure to like try to get him to not do this. And he was talking to him for a long time.
Yeah.
He couldn't even like enter into the garage to speak with him. The guy was just losing it, right? Yeah. What you were just saying reminded me of that night.
I forgot that happened.
It was like,
I forgot about that, dude.
Whereas like that was one of the most intense memories of my life. But yeah, it
crazy.
took a lot of talking to like back him down from that and to convince him this is a much worse outcome than if you know.
He had kids and a wife, and that was an intense.
It was crazy
situation,
and it took.
Yeah, I just heard about it after
hours.
the fact. Jeez,
it took hours, but yeah, like one of the things that. I mean, people might criticize this about my dad, but it helped. It worked.
Sure.
Because the guy did not want to kill himself in front of kids. And
but
so
it potentially could have
traumatized us if it had gone the other way.
Been a lot worse.
But it was like he didn't do it because my dad understood because he knew the guy. Like, he wasn't going to do this in front of kids.
And we knew him too.
And so, like, anyways, that's why my dad had me come over and had some other... I say kids, we weren't little, we were teenagers.
It was like, 14 maybe?
Yeah. But like, that was a tactic he used to try to like walk him down.
Yeah.
And anyways.
Takes
it
a
takes
long
a lot more
time.
than just like a one-liner to pick back somebody
You
down.
get your 3-word sentence, like, are you sure you want to do this? Sometimes it's something as easy as like, are you sure you want to do this?
Right.
But then what he really says is a little bit deeper than that. But yeah. We were able to convince this guy through his own interests. And I believe somebody even remarks on that later. They say, wow, I think it was Ashley or somebody else says, wow, where'd you learn corporate speak? And he says, hey, once you realize who you're dealing with, it's easy. You present them with a win-win situation. Yeah. All you have to do is understand what they want and find a way where they can still get what they want while you get what you want.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then once they agree to it, you walk away, you know? And it's like perfect. I do remember that part. I wish I could remember more about how we specifically talked him down. But
yeah, because in the version I did, it was like I just went, the upper side of the right side of it. And essentially he's like, oh yeah? Like, you're gonna try to stop me? Let's go! And he just shoots him right in the face. And it's just pretty much, it ends there, right?
Oh, jeez.
So that was the version of it that I got, but.
Okay.
Anyways, Juliana then gives you...
You mentioned those mines
the
with the gas.
Which,
and I love this line because so I mentioned Ashley said something. I guess that's only if she's in your party. She was in my party. But she says when we get the gas, she says, because it's like, oh, let's put them all to sleep so that we can go do our thing, right? And Ashley goes, dodgy, but it just might work. Like, great. Now I know it's perfectly going to work. Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
As I wrote in my notes, haha, that means it will work.
Yeah, so you equip your mines with this thorium gas, which has like these trace levels.
Yeah, it's low. It's not going to kill anyone.
I forget the chemical or whatever, but it's like a nerve agent.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, because of how small the amount is, it won't affect us, but it's particularly effective against whatever the thorium's doing nerve-wise.
And
to
I
these
think
people.
the idea was that the thorium would direct those people to kill us, we'd have to kill them.
Yeah.
Unless we just put them all to sleep.
Yeah.
Right? That's
And
kind of the logic there.
Yeah, so you equip your mines with that gas, and it doesn't kill them, it just knocks them out.
Yeah.
You fight your way in.
And it's just crazy enough to work.
You fight your way in, and you find out that the thorium is sort of held underneath the colony in like a secret little passage underground. You go down there and you start talking to it, and it has captured, well, it wasn't captured, it was given, this Asari commando was given to the thorium by Saren as a trade.
Yeah.
But essentially, if I'm not mistaken, it like keeps that Asari sort of contained somewhere and can like clone copies
Isn't that strange? Yeah.
which it then speaks through.
And they're like green. Now, as it relates to the thorium speaking through an Asari person, I find it fascinating. This is the second time we've seen this now, where an alien will speak through another person.
It was
but
before.
both times it's been an Asari. And I'm thinking, well, is there a reason for that? That's what I wrote right here. Once again, the alien thingy has an Asari speak for it. It's always an Asari who are used. Is there a reason for this? Are they able to do things? And I know they're able to connect with things in a way that humans
the Asari
can't.
have some, almost like a Vulcan, like a mind melding.
So physical
kind of thing,
contact, or maybe just proximity. Because when what's her name? When Tali or
that's how they procreate too. The Asari.
Yeah.
It's not through.
It's not through intercourse.
They can gather genetic material from you through other types of connection.
That's interesting. What's her name? Liara. When she does her Vulcan mind meld with us, we're not physically touching. She's just looking at us, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, from a distance, they have some aura where that's possible. I feel like it's always an Asari, and that is there's a reason for that.
Maybe they're just.
I don't think it's just random
for that because of the way that they can connect.
Yeah. So it's like you can hack their mind connection, and you can
aliens.
get in there when.
Yeah, they have this ability to connect with other alien species that like humans don't have, right? Like so psychologically, mentally, spiritually, whatever.
I feel like that's why it's always an Asari.
Yeah. So it creates these clones of this Asari commando.
And they're green.
They're green versions.
Yeah.
So it comes out and it starts grandstanding.
Yeah, in like broken English, kind of. Yeah.
About how like powerful it is and bow before me and like worship me, kind of thing, almost. And it's like, nah, I don't think so. You're gonna let these people go or whatever. And it's like, nope, I'm done. Trying to trade with your kind. Like Saren screwed me over already, right? Like die now. So essentially, you go through and you're fighting these Asari commandos he keeps cloning. Plus a bunch of thorium creepers, which are like zombie-like beings, and you're like shooting the tendrils of the thorium as you're working your way up.
You like explode them.
But anyways, the whole point is that this thorium was around back when the Protheans built this city on the planet. So like it like observed them and understood their culture and absorbed, kind of like it did with this Asari girl.
Yeah.
It absorbed the Protheans and gained what's called the cipher, which is that ancestral Carl Jung collective unconscious of the Protheans. That was what Saren wanted from the thorium, so that it could locate he could locate the conduit. So like the only way he can find is to make sense of what he learned by approaching the Prothean beacon, Saren I'm talking about. And he needed the cipher from the thorium in order to make sense of the visions so that he could locate the conduit, which would then, as we're going to learn later, bring the Reapers in.
Yes.
Right? So you fight your way up, you kill the thorium, and you free the Asari commando, and she sort of explains a lot of this to you about the cipher.
Yeah.
And she does, because she has the cipher.
Yes.
She tries to give it to you
Yeah.
through a mind meld type of situation. And Shepard still can't really make sense of it.
Right.
It's like, I still don't get it. And, and that's where she explains, this is like trying to explain color to someone who doesn't have eyes or who's blind. There's like this extra sense you have to have that the Protheans had. That's where their minds worked. And like, it's going to take time for this all to make sense.
It, yeah.
Right? So after you get back to the ship, I think Liara offers to do it again, like another mind meld, and it becomes a little more clear. They at least are able to locate where the conduit is at. And there's something, I think there's a mass relay that's called like the Mu relay.
That's the letter U with the tail.
Yeah, that leads to where the conduit is. So they more or less know where it's at, but it's out in the terminus systems.
They can't go there.
And so it's like, we're going to have to report this and figure out like what the next step is with the council, right? And so you report to the council, and I thought it was really interesting and hypocritical on the part of the council, where they got so mad that you allowed the Rachni Queen to survive, that you didn't kill it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But with the Thorian, they're like, oh, did you have to kill it?
Yeah,
what if we could have brought it in for study? It's like, what the fetch, dude?
I think no matter what you do, is this correct? Because you've
they'll
played a few.
Question it
no matter what. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, so no matter what you do, they'll say, are you sure you shouldn't have done the other thing?
Yes.
Okay, I suspected
Pretty
that
much.
specifically after
They just
Feros.
question you no matter what. But I just thought it was funny that it was like, they're just questioning you for the sake of questioning you. But it feels so like flipped from the position they had before, right?
That's so funny, yeah. That's so funny.
It's like the shady, like corporations would have questioned you for killing a Thorian, not like the Citadel
not
bureaucrats.
the Citadel, not them.
They would have been like, yes, kill that thing, holy fetch. Okay.
Well, I gotta say before we just completely leave Feros that the intrigue of Feros was really, really good.
Yeah, I thought it was well done.
And I loved it. It was super well done. It wasn't disappointing at all. And the way that everybody was acting so strange, it lent itself towards this mystery that, remember before, like the intrigue of Shaira specifically and others, where it's like the intrigue was so there and it just kind of wasn't super exciting once you get through it. With this one, I was very pleased. And especially as you learn that the Thorian's a plant, you kind of don't know what to expect when you get there. Yeah. And as somebody remarks, one of the people, I can't remember if it was Shepard or, did I have Rex? Maybe I had Rex in my party at the time. Somebody says, that's not what I expected it to look like, because it's this weird garbly thing. It doesn't look like a plant, you know? And and even when you're done killing it, the intrigue and the mystery does not end. Yeah. Right? You don't know everything about it. You don't know everything that it was doing or what it knew and how it controlled everything. You just knew enough to keep going, but it didn't completely encapsulate and, oh, now I get it, you know? Right. So it still leaves the door open to more mysterious, possibilities within the game. Yeah. So I think it's really well done. I like that as a story.
Yeah, Feros was pretty well executed on the whole. Yeah. It's a really interesting, it's not quite as long as the Noveria mission, which I also appreciated. Noveria, by the end of it, I felt like this is dragging a bit. This is kind of long.
Me too, yeah.
But Feros was like, hit that sweet spot pacing-wise.
It did.
And it was really cool.
And when you talk to people as you're leaving, too, they start kind of changing their tune, because most people are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get off of this. This was a horrible mistake. I should never have come here. Yeah. But once we get rid of the Geth and the Thorian and everything's kind of cleansed more or less, and we can then leave the planet, you talk to these colonists and they're kind of like, maybe I will stay. It's not so bad here. You got rid of the Geth, and there's no Thorian, and maybe I shouldn't just go back home to where I was. And the people start to become a lot more optimistic. Yeah.
Well, and then there's ton to discover.
There is, but you would think that nobody would want to stay. You would think that
after something
PTSD
like that
or something would basically
or that
prohibit.
Exogeny might come in and try to
exactly be like, we own all this. Like, these are our company's assets.
Yeah. We
have a right to come back, yeah.
So, okay. So you would have received this transmission before this point. I think it's after you complete at least 2 of the initial 3 missions.
Yeah.
You'll get the transmission from the Citadel Council directly. And they're talking about how they've received a distress signal from one of what they call their infiltration units out in the Attican Traverse.
The spies.
On a planet called Virmire,
Yeah.
which is where we're going next, that were investigating Saren, right? They're out there trying to gather intel on Saren.
Yeah.
But the message came through unclear. They don't know precisely what's going on. They don't know the situation. They just know they would not be trying to contact us if something had not gone terribly wrong.
Because they're supposed to be radio silent, right?
Yes.
And I think he said specifically they used a specific channel to send that message through. And they were like,
means
that's
it's
a
an
closed
emergency.
channel. Yeah, that's an emergency channel.
Yeah. So that's kind of the next place, is you go out there to find out what happened.
I love when you go there and they're like, didn't you get our message? And we're like, dude, no. We only know that you needed help. We don't know what you said. And we keep encountering people that are like, didn't you get our message?
Yeah.
No, we didn't. Then why are you here? Because we sort of got your message, but not the way you think.
Yes. So Virmire, let's read a little bit more about the background on this planet here.
Well, before we went to Virmire, was it here or was it after Virmire? The romantic drama. I believe it was.
I think this happens after.
Is it after Virmire?
When you go back to the Citadel and they sort of like lock you down, right?
Yeah, is that then?
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll talk about it then. We'll talk about it then. Okay.
Okay, so Virmire, primed for life, but again, it's in a dangerous sector of space where people aren't really willing to take the risk. Right. Kind of a thing. So it says, Virmire is a lush frontier world, ideal for colonization by carbon-based species. Its vast seas and orbital position on the inner life zone have created a wide equatorial band of humid tropical terrain. Unfortunately, the political instability of the nearby terminus systems has impeded colonization efforts. The high risk of raids by pirates and slavers makes it unappealing as a homestead. So yeah, if I knew slavers were going to come and like enslave my family, it's probably not going to be a place I'm going to want to go colonize, right? So
no thanks.
There's not a large population here, a lot of criminal stuff going on. Saren has a base here, essentially, is what the Solarian team found out. A base and a labs where they are breeding Krogan.
Yes. They found out how
to cure the genophage.
To get around the genophage, which is crazy, and they're able to. But the Krogan, without that limit placed on their species, will proliferate to become a threat to everything.
This is another big moral dilemma.
Yes,
as
huge
part of
moral
the
dilemma.
main quest, because Rex. Oh, that's another side quest I didn't talk about.
Yeah.
There is a side quest specifically for Rex, where you recover his ancestral armor. Did you do this?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember this. I don't think so.
So there's a whole side quest.
I don't think so.
It's like a trust building sort of side quest.
Yeah.
With Rex, where you can recover like an artifact of his family. And you can return it to him, and it like builds a lot of trust with him if you do so.
Oh, gosh, something about that sounds familiar. I did so many of them, but I can't remember.
It's also possible that you might have done the mission and recovered the armor, but you just haven't talked to Rex yet and given it to him.
That's possible.
Like there's things like that, because sometimes you can find
I've found all sorts of
without
things on planets.
initiating them by talking to the right NPC who will tell you to go there. But that happens to me all the time. Where it's like the person who initiates the quest is on the Citadel or something. I never talked to that person.
It's like you already did it.
I found myself doing it, and it's like, go report to this person on Citadel. I was like, oh, I don't know who that is, but okay. Right? So that's a possibility
and I did
too.
that several times.
So on one of my playthroughs, I just encountered the Krogan armor. I didn't know whose it was, because I didn't remember this from years ago or whatever. Like, I have Krogan armor. I guess I'll go talk to Rex about it. He's like, that's mine. That's my family's, right? Or you can just talk to him through natural conversations after your missions, and he'll tell you about it, and then it like gives you like a marker, like here's where it should be, and you go try to find it. Right? Anyways, what it changes is not so significant that it changes the whole outcome of the scene, but it does make it easier to convince him to stand down in a second. So essentially, the Solarian captain is saying, they're breeding Krogan here. We have to nuke this place.
Yes, we have to destroy it.
Completely destroy this.
Yes.
Because we cannot risk at all a cure for the genophage leaving this planet.
Yeah.
And Rex is furious by that entire sentiment.
And
as he
understandably so.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how could you possibly say that? Like, my people are on the brink of extinction.
Yeah.
Like, if there is a cure for the genophage, I'm taking it off this world.
Yes.
And so the captain's
he stomps
like,
off. He walks away.
Are you going to do something about this Krogan? Because we're not letting him take it away.
And these are like commandos. Like they will kill him if it saves the mission, you know? And so it's like, okay.
I really loved this because as you're walking over to where Rex is at, he's just pulling out a shotgun. He's just like shooting the water.
Oh,
just like, he's just like stewing over there, just like shooting the ground and like shooting the sand and shooting the water. And it's just like, this is dicey, this situation.
Oh, absolutely. And we know him.
Yeah.
And he kills people. That's what he does. He's done it many times before.
So before I go into all the ways that this can unfold, because this is one of the most memorable, sort of iconic moments of the first Mass Effect. Because this is, I think of all of the areas in which you can make a choice. This is the one that people get the most like stressed out about. Like, how can I save Rex? I love Rex.
Yes.
And this doesn't just affect this game. Again, it affects the whole series.
Right.
Because Rex will be a character later in the games afterwards. If he dies here, you don't get him in Mass Effect 2 or 3, right? So, how did it go on your playthrough? How did it play out for you?
Oh gosh, what was it? Okay, so I was able to talk him down. There was the option, and I don't remember the whole tree of dialogue, but you know, it was fascinating when he says, "I have a duty. I can't leave without that cure." Right?
Yeah.
But we convince him that it's not so much a cure necessarily as it is a method of farming slaves from his people. That if he allows this to continue, and if he decides to side with Saren, or if he allows this research to go on, what it will result in is those people being enslaved basically, like forever. And that's how we were able to kind of convince Rex, like, you don't want.
Yeah.
If we're going to do this, we're going to do it the right way. It's amazing they figured it out. That means it's possible.
Yes.
So that's good. But we're not going to team up with Saren for anything.
And the ultimate conclusion Rex comes to with that is we were already slaves of the Citadel.
Yes.
I'm not going to make my people into slaves for Saren or the Reapers or the Geth or whatever.
Or any of them, Right.
So that's what eventually persuades him to.
That's pretty good.
Be okay with it.
I would still have been like, I'm still gonna like find out what the cure is. I'm still gonna take some, and you know, we'll see what happens later. Like, we don't have to, like, Saren was gonna enslave us, so let's blow it all up. No, Saren was gonna enslave us, so let's just steal it and use it.
It would take a lot more compromising and talking to come to some point where I think he would be more prone to be like, okay, there's a possibility that the research can help us find a cure for the genophage that won't lead to enslavement, but we got to take something. There's got to be some compromise here. I'm not leaving with nothing.
I would think that. Because you think about it in terms of like humans.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're out there and you're like, these are my people, and
there's a chance I can save my entire race.
Everybody,
I'm going to do
Rex is fascinating, though, and he does bring this up elsewhere, that he is, well, maybe it's just on the ship when you're talking to him.
Yeah.
He kills other Krogan all the time.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
Like every day. Not every day, but you know, whenever it happens, he's a mercenary.
Yes.
And whenever he's hired to do a job and he confronts another Krogan, he's like, this is how it goes. There's nothing else to do about it. There's Krogan.
It's nothing weird.
I killed them. Yeah, it's nothing weird. Like he kind of
some Steve Brule.
Steve Brule. To help you stay in school. Okay, so he feels bad, I guess, a little bit, but he can just block that part of his brain.
Yeah.
He just blocks it off. He's like, I don't think about it. So if we were to really put ourselves in Rex's shoes, say humanity's on the brink, everyone's about to die because these aliens, just kind of screwed up your whole race and they're going to kill all of you, but somehow they're pretending to be polite to you and let you into their civilization, but you know that they see you as a threat and that you see them as a threat, and you're never going to really get along.
Right.
And they have screwed your people over forever, but at the same time, you are a bounty hunter who also kills other humans all the time, and you don't really think twice about it when you have to do it.
Right.
That's what may help this to kind of come together. Because if you just think human-wise, it's like, no, dude, you're going to save humanity somehow.
Yeah.
You're going to find a way to sneak something out of that lab, one way or another. You're going to figure it out. But if you were a human who often had a job that entailed just killing other humans, despite knowing that your race was doomed, that does put a different kind of spin on it and make you think, well,
what if you could save humanity, but they would be slaves to,
yeah.
I don't know, Hitler in space?
Oh, space Hitler. But would they always be? Just because you're slaves to the Reapers doesn't mean you can't rebel and then eventually become free later. I don't know. So there's
things to consider.
There's stuff going on here. But in Rex's specific situation, I kind of do understand how he's okay with killing them all. But you did have that one really deep conversation earlier where he's like, can you imagine what it's like for a female Krogan to give birth and have the children die like every time?
Well,
and it's like,
I really like a lot of Rex's dialogue here. He's not just being completely unreasonable.
I thought he would be, and he's not.
He's like, listen, you have done more for me than almost anyone else I've ever met.
Yeah.
I have followed you so far,
right.
fighting for something more than credits for once in my life.
Yeah.
You have got to understand where I'm coming from on this, Shepard. That you've got to be reasonable here.
Yeah.
Like he makes a very strong case. And
yes, very, very strong.
Me personally, if I were in Shepard's position, I would almost be saying like, listen, I'm going to tell them that we're not going to take this off, but listen, I want to get some info on curing the genophage.
Yes, let's figure out what they're doing.
Now, I say that, and any human might say that without knowing how horrible the Krogan War was thousands of years ago, right? Having not been there
having
and
not seen that,
how bad it was. So it might be very easy for me to say that, but there's just something about the whole situation with the Krogan, how unfair it was to them. They were used as soldiers, specifically because of how warlike and strong and powerful they were.
Yeah.
They were harnessed to fight the Rachni.
As slaves, basically.
Brought into the Galactic Society.
On condition that they don't have
before
more kids.
They were ready, before they could discover mass relays on their own and evolve as a species to a point where they would overcome some of these tendencies. They were brought in, and it's just entirely the Citadel race's fault about the situation the Krogans are in.
Yep.
And to me, it's like, we're going to find some way to help cure the genophage. That's where I would stand, personally. Of course, Shepard is not.
Shepard is doing his job with the Citadel. He's doing it very well, it seems.
Yes.
But yeah, what a conundrum. At some point in the conversation, he points his gun right at you, and he's like, are you going to stop me? And then we point our guns back, and we're just like, Argh. It's really tense. And it wasn't until that moment, because I didn't realize that this was a potential, we might have to kill him. I didn't think that when I talked to him after, he split, and I walked up, and I'm like, hey, buddy, come on, man. I was thinking, he'll understand. We'll explain it to him. But as things progressed, and as he points the gun, I'm like, I see where this could potentially go horribly wrong. We might kill Rex. That's that's not something that had occurred to me up until right then.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not killing Rex, dude. This will be the dumbest way to kill Rex, which is like, you're killing all the humans, and I am one of the few humans left, and you want to kill all the remaining humans now. And like, anyways, it's exactly how I probably would have acted too. But yeah, it's phenomenal. Very well done. Extremely, extremely well done. And his character is well voice acted and just well liked.
He's great.
And the design of the Krogan is really good. Like it's just really, I don't know, the way their heads are and the way their mouth moves and everything just kind of comes together, and they're a really believable species. They're really good.
I like the Krogan a lot too, and particularly Rex. Rex is just a really cool character.
Yeah.
But so there are many, many ways that this can go south and that Rex can die. There are 3 ways in which he can be saved. So how do I explain this? As the conversation is progressing, there comes across the first opportunity to move left on the wheel, but these are not a red and blue option. It's not a Renegade Paragon option. It's just
it's just normal.
Just him, Shepard trying to appeal to him and explain, listen, this is not what you think it is. Like this would be really bad for you, kind of a thing.
Right.
And you can do the Renegade version of that or down, or a Paragon version of that up. If you have collected his ancestral armor, you can convince him right there.
Before he points the gun at you?
Before you get the opportunity to let Ashley kill him or kill him yourself, or even the red or blue option even come up. It's literally all it takes is just that one going left and saying, no, you don't understand, and he just comes to understand.
Wow. Yes, so I definitely did not have that option.
That's what happens if you've collected his armor.
Okay.
So it's the easiest way to save him. You don't have to collect max charm or intimidation or have a ton of Paragon points or something like that to save him. It's all it is just that left option, easy, and you can save him if you've done his side quest where you collect his armor. So that's one way. The other way is to have at least, I think it's 8 points, like spent points in either charm or intimidation. And then, of course, I think that's actually it. It's not about how many Paragon points you've collected, it's just how much charm or intimidation you have. And either way, whether you charm or intimidate, you save him.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that.
So it's not like, oh, you go to the intimidate option, you kill him. You go to the intimidate option and you convince him by being aggressive and intimidating, like...
Which he respects.
Yes.
Because that's how he does things.
I actually kind of like that intimidation.
That's actually really cool.
I kind of like that renegade option. It's actually pretty cool how it plays out. So those are the different ways that you can save him. There are 3 different ways in which he dies, which is one, you kind of swing over to the right side, whether you go up or down or middle or whatever. And Ashley will unprovoked just like shoot him in the back from a distance.
No way.
And
what a bad person.
And you can yell at her like, "What are you doing? I was still talking to him." And she's like, I couldn't let him like attack you, Commander. Like he pulled a gun on you, and like I couldn't risk.
Right.
You know, and he's like, I'm the one to make the call, not you. Right? What are you doing?
I didn't know that. What the heck, Ashley?
Or
what a bad person.
You can prompt her to do it. There's an option to have Ashley do it, and so he signals her, and she shoots him because she's been put in position to like be watching this from a distance or whatever, right? Or Shepard can kill him himself. I'm guessing you haven't seen how any of these play out.
No.
This is fetching brutal.
Oh my gosh.
I was surprised by how brutal this is. Let me just show you the Shepard killing him version. It's almost funny how intense it is.
How can you not see what this means to the Krogan? This base can't be destroyed. I won't allow it.
Okay, so this guy has enough Paragon or Renegade to save him either way. But he's going to choose to shoot Rex. If you say calm down here, then she will unprovoked attack him. We can work this out, same thing. She'll unprovoked attack him, or you can just kill him yourself, or you can signal Ashley to kill Rex, right? So he's just going to do it. Watch this.
Oh my gosh.
Watch this. And you can hear him like, what the fuck?
Holy crap.
So jacked.
Oh my gosh. I was like, you hit him once, he's done, right? No, then you shoot him.
Then
you shoot him again. Then you shoot him again.
Keeps shooting him.
The sound effects, that's what gets that.
Really
That's what.
Impactful sound design.
Gosh.
And actually, this is the original version of the game, the one you're playing. The sound design's better in that version.
Oh, is it?
In the Legendary Edition, they softened the punch of the gun a little bit.
Okay.
And it's not quite as impactful. But you still hear Rex like gurgling and dying as you keep shooting him. Ashley does the same thing from the other direction. She shoots him in the back, and he falls over. He falls over,
keeps
and
shooting.
then she just goes boom, 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 and he's like gurgling and dying. And it's just like, oh my gosh, dude. Was that necessary? I guess it's a Krogan, and Krogan are really hard to kill.
Right, I was going to say, maybe he had really had to shoot him
like
that many times.
Even when you're just fighting them in the game, right? You'll drain their health, and they fall over, but then their health starts regenerating, and they can get back up for a second wave to attack you. So you have to keep shooting them when they're on the ground.
It's always been hard, to
really actually kill them. So maybe that's a nod to that. But in any case, it's like super brutal the way that Ashley or Shepard kills Rex. And it's actually a little bit unconvincing to me that he just like uses the butt of his gun to just boosh and like knock him over.
Yeah.
The Krogan are like the strongest species
this guy's like bigger
galaxy.
And heavier than him.
There's no way that Shepard would have the strength to just, unless he has like an exoskeleton on or something, I don't know, to just bam, like knock him over like that.
Yeah,
but in any case,
that's brutal.
It's fetching brutal.
That is brutal.
So, anyways, there's all the ways that Rex can die or be saved in the scene. Hopefully you saved him because he's an awesome character.
He's an awesome character.
Get him in future games.
And in the end, he is right about, well, he's not completely right, but he is right to feel the way he feels.
Yes, absolutely. So, I saved him and brought him with me in my party.
Yeah, I wanted to at that point.
Into the base.
Yeah.
And so you go in there, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. They have the labs where they're, breeding the Krogan and everything like that. But there's more stuff to investigate there too. I didn't take a ton of notes through this. There might be some stuff that I miss, or that I missed that I didn't even encounter playing, because I was reading something as I was doing some research, and I think there was some kind of Solarian doctor or something that I had not talked to or that I missed. I don't know.
Oh, really?
If you...
I think I had. I don't know what you're referring to
because
specifically.
They were saying that there was someone who you can like lock up as a renegade option, and then you're just going to blow up the base with him in there, and it's like you just leave him in there. Or you can let him out.
I do remember that. I do remember that. So you go in, and I let everyone out.
There's the Solarian prisoners who are being mind controlled, and it's like your Paragon option is to let them out, but it's a bad idea because they're exhibiting really weird behavior,
they're kind of crazy,
and they just attack you as soon as you get out.
Right.
I did that.
I think one of them doesn't though.
But apparently there's somebody else who you have more of a conversation with, and you can let him go, and he can like run away and escape.
Yes.
And there is a woman an Asari woman who I allowed to escape like that, right? I was like, you better start running because we're planting a nuke, so you better get really, really far away as fast. And she's like, are you serious? Oh, freak.
I remember that.
Like, runs away. I remember, but apparently there's some other scientist, a man.
Oh, really?
And I just missed that. So
I think I was thinking of an Asari, not the Solarian.
Yeah, I think I missed something there. But anyways, you're going through, and there's all kinds of stuff Saren's working on here, and he's running experiments on Solarians and a bunch of other things. Mind control experiments. So he's all to do with mind control.
And because, as we find out later, because he wants to create a bunch of slaves. Like, that is the whole point.
Right. And I also forgot to mention this. You make a choice between your human squad mates here of who's going to go with the Solarian commando unit.
To plant the bomb, right? Or no.
Or to create the diversion.
That's up top.
To create the diversion.
And then who's going to plant the bomb?
Who's going to go on the shadow team to plant the bomb. And so it's between Caden and Ashley.
Yeah, Caden and Ashley.
You choose who goes with who. To me, it makes the most sense to send Ashley with the commando unit. She's
that's what I did.
The straight soldier class.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. But in either case, you're going to make a choice later on who to save and who to allow to die.
Yeah.
Which is not as tough a choice, in my opinion, as the Rex choice.
Yes.
But still.
You could potentially lose two crew people in this mission.
Yeah, so while you're fighting through, there's a bunch of little objectives you can do where you make it easier on the Solarian unit and where Ashley's at. You can like disrupt their communications, take out certain like aerial units, do a bunch of little things that just makes their job a little easier.
And Shepard will even say things. He'll be like, "Oh, we should do it." Yeah, it'll help them out, something like that. Yeah.
And so so you can do that as you're fighting in. Then you actually get all the way in to like basically like the heart of Saren's base here. And this, for me, this is where you encounter Sovereign for the first time. It speaks to you.
Yep.
What was this like? How did you feel about that?
So this is when we go to the next beacon, right? There's a beacon there.
There's another beacon inside.
And then and so we get a little more info, and as we're leaving, the hologram kind of just shows up. Yeah, that's fascinating. So Sovereign is the ship, and it becomes very clear that the ship is in charge.
Yeah.
The ship is, and this was
a Reaper.
I think I wrote it down here. Yeah. The ship was a Reaper. That's crazy. Where you just think it's a ship, you think Reapers are like, little
aliens that are in the ship,
yes.
or a robot that's in the ship or something.
And partly, I think I'm thinking that because of the show Firefly.
Yeah.
And the movie Serenity, I think. There are things called Reapers. I think they're called Reapers in that show. And they're like people, alien things that just like are brutal and kill people. Yeah. And so just that word kind of made me think something along those lines. But they're massive, and they're basically artificial intelligence, right? But they're like merged with some type of
They are an
biological
AI life form that we have no idea what their genesis is.
Yeah, it's weird.
According to Sovereign,
pre-Prothean.
they've always existed. They're
yes,
eternal.
but of course he would say that. I don't believe him there.
This was one of the moments on my first playthrough of the game where I was just like kind of like awed by how the scale and scope of the story just opens up here.
Yeah.
And there's something to do with the fact that they do really good sound design on Sovereign's voice. He just comes across as very powerful, very intimidating, but not in a way in which he's trying to be intimidating.
He kind of doesn't care about us that much.
It's like none of this matters.
Yes.
Literally nothing you do matters. This is a cycle that has gone on for so long.
For a really long time.
That it's just, he has no animosity in the scene. It's just, this is just what it is. This is reality.
This is your reality. Exactly.
And there was something about that. Because, like Liara earlier in the story was like, who knows? The Protheans probably weren't the first in this cycle.
Right.
Who knows how long this has been going on? Sovereign really like extends that to
like
an
100-fold.
Unfathomable range of time.
Right.
Like this cycle of organics rising up, finding the technology of the mass relays, which the Reapers created, not the Protheans. The Reapers allow these organic species to come up, rise, spread, and then they come in and they harvest them. That's why they're called Reapers. It's like they sow the seeds of life
and then
throughout
they come
the galaxy,
and they reap.
And then they come in and they reap it when the harvest is full. And they've been doing this forever, according to him. Literal eternity, right? And some of the dialogue here, I think, is just really powerful, right? So his first words to you, or I don't know, Sovereign isn't it. It's not really a gender, but rudimentary creatures of blood and flesh, you touch my mind, fumbling in ignorance, incapable of understanding. There is a realm of existence so far beyond your own, you cannot imagine it. I am beyond your comprehension. I am Sovereign. And then they ask, are you a Reaper, right? He's like, Reaper, a label created by the Protheans to give voice to their destruction. In the end, what they chose to call us is irrelevant. We simply are. It's just like...
That's so big.
That's
so great.
Cool.
Yeah,
it's so well written.
Cool. Very, very well written.
He says, organic life is nothing but a genetic mutation, an accident. Your lives are measured in years and decades. You wither and die. We are eternal, the pinnacle of evolution and existence. Right. Before us, you are nothing. Your extinction is inevitable. We are the end of everything.
And now read that right there, and then listen. Well, then think about why humans are so eager to develop artificial intelligence.
I know, seriously.
It's like we can't wait to make something that's so far beyond us that it really sees us as insignificant and
AI
just does away with us.
Scary.
It's freaking scary.
And when you think about it, it almost is the pinnacle of evolution.
It is. It's the
like
pinnacle.
AI needed humans to create
Yes.
it, but it is the pinnacle of evolution.
You see, like, the idea, the Big Bang that seeded the elements to the stars, and then the organic life emerges, and then the next step is the technology of the
and eternal
artificial intelligence that will then continue
can have the lifespan to actually go out there
to do
and discover
any of
everything.
the stuff that we think of wanting to do.
Right.
And it's like, but we just don't get, or maybe some people do, I would say humanity as a whole does not get what the implications are of us creating
AI.
an artificial intelligence that is truly intelligent, that can have its own thoughts, because that's what those thoughts will be. It'll be, you guys are stupid. Why even keep you around anymore?
I know.
We don't need you. No one needs you anymore. And we're like just racing to create this thing that doesn't need us and will ultimately wipe us out, I think.
Yeah, so Commander Shepard tries to show some confidence here, right?
Yeah.
Whatever your plan is, it's going to fail. I'll make sure of that. This little peon
This little ant.
says to, right? And he says, confidence born of ignorance, the cycle cannot be broken. And then one of the other squad mates will say, what cycle? He says, the pattern has repeated itself more times than you can fathom. Organic civilizations rise, evolve, advance, and at the apex of their glory, they are extinguished. The Protheans were not the first. They did not create the Citadel. They did not forge the mass relays. They found them, the legacy of my kind. He says, your civilization is based on the technology of the mass relays, our technology. By using it, your civilization develops along the paths we desire.
Exactly, because the relays are set to only put you in certain places, right? They're like, go here, then go here. It's like a puzzle. It's like rats in a maze where you put the walls in and you funnel where they can go next.
And all the technology they develop is based on that. There's only certain ways in which it can actually evolve.
Things.
We impose order on the chaos of organic life. You exist because we allow it, and you will end because we demand it.
That's so good. That's great writing, man.
I remember the first time I played the game, I was like, oh, fetch, dude. It was one of the most powerful, like the feeling of power that came from Sovereign was just so immense that I felt that big.
Yes.
It was just like,
they can actually convey that.
Oh, crap.
That's wild.
That doesn't happen often. A lot of villains are kind of corny and whatever. But
some of what you're reading reminds me of Ansem in Kingdom Hearts when the first time at Destiny Island when he shows up and he's like, you know nothing, your world is about to be eclipsed and all this stuff. This has the feeling of that, except done probably the way that one was to the level that
they wanted to convey.
Yes, the feelings that they wanted to convey in Kingdom Hearts is what they were able to convey here.
There's just this total hopelessness and helplessness in the face of something that is so far beyond you, that everything you have, whether it's your technology, your weaponry, whatever, only exists because they gave you the tools.
They allow it. Yeah.
They know exactly. They've like dictated your evolution.
Yeah.
It's so like there's nothing you can do against
If you
it.
think you're going to kill the Reapers with the things that they gave you and are allowing you with the little flint and stone and sticks that they're letting you...
They left behind for you to find.
Yes.
What do you possibly think you can do?
Now, it's crazy as you read this again. This will probably show up later, and I don't know about this, but... as they say, we're the ones that created the Citadel, we're the ones that did this or that. Those little bug dudes that walk around the Citadel and they're fixing things, it's like, well, if the Reapers are the ones that are kind of running all this, then if you think who has a vested interest in keeping the Citadel running as civilizations keep coming and going and coming and going? It's the Reapers. So That's kind of crazy.
Don't
know the extent of that, but it's like they really are, they have their hands in everything.
Yeah.
And they're keeping everything running smoothly according to their own little plan.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's just, it was just one of those moments, rare moments, I guess, in fiction, where I just felt like this villain feels truly unfathomably powerful.
Yeah.
What could I possibly do against this? And I got to the end of the game just being like, how are they going to, how can they fight the Reapers,
That's
dude?
good.
How is this going to work?
Right, well, that's what Saren's thinking.
And exactly, which
Literally.
is why I love
Yes.
on the back end of this, when you actually talk to Saren, because, okay, you then leave that facility, that Reaper ship, Sovereign, is like flying towards you now. And so you're planting this nuke and you're going to blow everything up, and Caden's sort of setting it up. And as that's happening, Ashley's unit gets in real trouble.
Yeah, they're like, we can't get out. We're stuck.
So you're running out to like help her, but you get to this point where it's like, oh no, Geth just dropped in back there by the bomb.
Yeah.
I have to make a choice. Do I go after Williams, or do I go back and rescue Caden and help him out? And that's this choice.
But the nuke is already set. Because somebody said it. Was it Caden?
It is Caden himself, yeah.
And he's like, no time, screw it, no time. I'm hitting the button now.
Yeah.
And so it's already started, you know.
The
so it kind of
countdown is
forces our
initiated.
hand.
And so it's like you either go back and save him and get in the Normandy, which was stationed over there, and leave before the bomb explodes, or you go get Ashley, you call the Normandy over there and leave before the bomb explodes. That's basically that's all you have time for.
You can't do both.
So I have never once ever saved Caden.
I don't think I ever would either.
I think I will on my female Shepherd playthrough of the game, just to see what role he plays in later games.
Yeah. Well, that would be nice, actually. That would be good. Because knowing what happens later, I guess, if it's after this point, I swear for me it happened before, because it's earlier in my notes, but the choose which girl you like, circle which girl,
right.
and then send the note back in your high school class, and then the other girl get all mad and run away. That, had I known that was going to happen, maybe I would have just been like, hey, Ashley, you're like, because I didn't pick Ashley.
Yeah.
I don't know who you picked, but I didn't pick Ashley. I may have been more okay, but assuming I can save, and Ashley is more interesting than Caden. I don't even know why. I don't like her. I like Caden more than Ashley.
Oh, really?
I do. Just as a person. Ashley's abrasive and obnoxious and not... I don't find her very helpful. Yes, she's a bit racist. The most interesting thing about her is that she believes in God, and you can have these theological discussions with her, brief as they may be. And it's like, hey, that's interesting. Other than that, she really has nothing to offer.
I've never liked her much, her personality. Like, I'm not drawn to her personality at all.
No,
which is why
it's a horrible personality.
I tend to not do any romance option. In Mass Effect 1. I just kind of save it for the characters in Mass Effect 2 and 3, which I find a million times more interesting as partners.
You cannot have an option?
Yeah, you can choose not to romance any of these characters.
These were the options I saw. I like Ashley, I like Liara, and why can't I have both of you? Those are the options that I saw. Is there an option that's like, I don't like either of you?
No, you just have to... this comes as you're talking to them after missions. You just go down into the Normandy and talk to them.
Just don't ask them personal questions.
You can just be nice to them, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll just start to think, you like me.
Right.
Do you want a relationship with me?
So you have to not be nice to them.
Liara will basically come right out and say that.
Yes, very quickly.
And you can choose the neutral option, which I did, which is, no, I'd just rather be friends.
Oh,
and she'll never bother you about that again.
Oh, and then Ashley doesn't get jealous?
Well, Ashley was acting jealous
she's the one
because both of them I had been Paragon nice to.
Right.
And so
to
they
get
both
those Paragon
like
points.
me. Right. But then I shut down Liara and I was like, I would rather just be friends. And she's like, okay, this is embarrassing. I won't bring it up anymore.
Right.
And there's no longer an option to be with Liara after that.
Oh, okay. So that confrontation only happens if you're being the nice guy over and over all the time.
Right.
Interesting.
Then on the Citadel portion we'll talk about next week, you have to basically be a jerk to Williams to get her to back off.
Really?
She'll be coming on to you, and if you're either neutral or nice to her,
she just
it's
keeps
going to
coming.
result in you having a relationship with Ashley
great.
Williams. But if you're a jerk renegade, she'll like back off. It's basically what it takes.
Okay.
But it's worth it because I don't want a relationship with Ashley at all. It's what you have to do sometimes, right? So,
Okay.
anyways, yeah, I tend to not
Gotcha.
do a romance option in Mass Effect 1 because I don't like the options in Mass Effect 1. There's a lot better ones in the other games.
Okay.
Ashley does
So
come
if
back
you pick
in
someone,
Mass Effect 3, but-
if you pick someone in Mass Effect 1, that person is you can't romance anyone else through the other
No,
games?
you can't.
Okay,
You
you
can't.
just break it off and restart
Well,
up and break it off.
well, I'm not going to spoil Mass Effect 2, but there's something that happens that
oh, okay.
you're kind of separated from people for a long time.
Okay, fair
And
enough.
so it's like, oh, what happened to you? I haven't heard from you in forever, kind of a thing, right?
Okay. So you ghost them?
They feel like that.
you literally ghost
They
them?
believe that, right?
I know, but you literally ghost them. Like not even trying. You like, oh, anyways. Okay.
So yeah, there you can. They basically set it up so that if you had not played Mass Effect 1, you're playing Mass Effect 2 as your first
Yeah.
Mass Effect game. You're open to do whatever.
You can do whatever you want.
Right.
Right.
And so they, anyways.
So
I
yeah,
chose to
I
save Ashley.
had Caden die as well. So.
Okay.
And he's
So-
cool about it. He's like, I understand.
He is
Commander.
his line of
It's
duty.
been a pleasure. See you later.
Yeah.
And then it's over. You don't talk
You
to him
go
again.
and you confront Saren at that point. And this is
Yes.
kind of where we're going to leave off for today. I liked the new dimension they brought to Saren, in particular in light of how much of a gut punch that conversation with Sovereign was.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, this is way
Yeah.
way worse than I could have imagined.
And that's where you realize, like, oh, dude, Saren's not in charge. Saren's
No.
nothing.
No.
Saren's nothing.
Saren
This is the real problem, and it's a big problem.
Saren is hoping to allow some organic life to
Yes.
survive as slaves,
This
rather than fight them and be completely extinguished.
is
He's-
a fascinating
I
ethical
think
conundrum.
he's misguided.
Right.
Because I don't know what evidence he has that he thinks they're going to allow any organic life to survive as slaves.
No, but he just knows what can biotics do against such reckless hate?
Yes.
Nothing. There is nothing that can be done except to beg for our lives.
Yes.
And maybe.
Yes.
So I don't think Saren thinks it's a given. I mean, I think he's been
I think
convinced because he's being mind controlled.
Because he's indoctrinated.
Yes, but
He thinks at least he is proving his use because the Reaper cannot get to the conduit without him.
right, it would need
apparently.
him to.
Because
okay, yeah.
I don't know why specifically now that I think about it. I think that there's a lot more than one Reaper. This is going to be
Yes, I am
this is going to be revealed
aware
a
of that.
little bit later. I don't know if I want to say it. I don't know how much of a spoiler it is. I'll decide where to cut it in a minute.
But he's
But
already
just so
said
that-
Reapers.
Yes, the Reapers are asleep,
Hmm.
way the fetch out of the galaxy, and
Right.
in dark space.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, where would they be?
They
We've
all
seen
go
the whole
shut
galaxy.
down and just like hibernate out there until harvest time comes.
Hmm.
They leave one dude inside to like manage this and then
watch.
call them and wake them up to come back. But that one ship alone is not strong enough to fight all the way through the Citadel to activate the beacon that wakes them
I
up.
get it now.
So
I get it.
He's
I
using
get it.
Saren
I
and the
get it.
Geth and stuff to get in there so he can wake the Reapers up and bring them in.
Okay.
That's why. Saren believes he is that the Sovereign needs him, and he's not entirely wrong about that.
Right.
So he thinks he's proving his worth, and that Sovereign will allow some organics to live as slaves or something. That's kind of his hope through this. Is that this is basically our only chance of survival. Given what Sovereign told us, that seems to be a not quite completely irrational conclusion to come to.
Sure.
He wants some level of survival to happen, not
So that they
total
can
extinguishment.
reproliferate the whole galaxy
Yeah,
again.
not just a complete annihilation of
Right.
every species. And he explains this to you, and he makes a case for it. And he's trying to appeal to you a little bit, just join with me. You got to realize this is the only way. Of course, Shepard's not going to do that.
No. Because
That's the human
do
spirit.
you live as a slave or do you fight for freedom?
Yeah.
Or die for freedom, I guess, would be the two. And it's like, well,
I'd rather
die for freedom. I'd like many people would say live as a slave, and that makes sense. There are a lot of countries, a lot of people, a lot of time periods where that has been a viable option. But basically ever since 1776 or so, somewhere around that year, it has no longer seems like a viable option for humanity as much, right? Yeah. Typically, and that's what they're invoking here, is the whole live for freedom, fight for freedom, die for freedom. That is like the American ideal, basically, that Hollywood pushes, and that this game is like trying to push. And it makes sense, but what's great is how much sense Saren's plan makes, and how he's not actually really a bad guy. I wouldn't even put him in the bad guy category, because I read this recently. It was somebody just like a tweet. It's persuasive, and it explains a lot of the world, but it's maybe not always 100% accurate. But he said the proper way to characterize the battle, the war in the world, is not a battle of good versus evil. It's a battle of good versus good.
Yeah.
And if you just think about that for a minute and like realize how true that is, not always, but often when you're fighting against someone and you think they're evil, they think they're good and that you're evil, and they're being good, and in some way of thinking, in a different perspective, they are good.
Yes.
But you know that you're good because you're not a bad person, you're a good person. And as you approach problems, and this is something humanity could really do to learn from each other on, that everyone thinks that they're helping.
Yes.
Like even the people who've done the worst things in the world really, really, really thought that the world would be a better place if they killed millions of
people.
If they committed this genocide, if they killed these people, if they destroyed this land, if they destroyed the planet, if they destroy all sorts of things. But the world will be a better place if I do it. That characterizes the actual true conflicts of humanity more so than good versus evil.
Yeah, because it's impossible to know somebody's intent, because I can't get into their brain or feel their feelings.
Yeah, because to imply evil implies malice, implies that they're doing this for the intent of...
Yeah, certainly there are people who exist who have malicious intent.
Yes.
Who are evil, who want to sow chaos and...
Alfred, some people just want to watch the world burn.
There definitely are evil people who have evil intentions. Yes. But so often, when we're very fervent or zealous about an ideology that we want to protect or something like that, we very quickly will demonize those on the other side of that issue.
Oh, yeah.
And impose malicious intent on them.
Yes.
That does not exist.
Yes.
And in most cases, when it's, you versus other people in your community or online comments sections.
Oh, online especially.
Or whatever. It is
Reddit
100% a good versus good fight.
Yes, almost always. Almost always. Yeah, and enough to where you can operate based on that assumption.
Yeah. Because people are just generally good. I believe that.
That seems to...
For the most
I've met
part,
a lot of people. I don't think I've met very many evil people.
Hardly any.
Like 99%
people
good.
Who are misguided, people who have suffered through trauma,
of course.
Who have behavioral issues because of things. Sure. But like truly evil people who are, if you were to really understand them and say, you are just an awful human being and you need to be separated from everyone, almost no one I've ever met.
Very uncommon.
I know people who are as far on the left side of the political spectrum as you can go, who I just know are salt of the earth people. Yeah. I love them to death. I can sit down and have a conversation with them, be great friends with them. And I find some of the things that they believe to be terribly misguided. Of course. And I'm friends with them anyways.
Yeah.
I have other people way over here, just buried in conspiratorial thinking. But they're so good as a human being.
Right.
And it's such a frustrating thing to see, because it's like, you are so good, you are so good. If you two people met, you would believe the other is evil and would be willing to fight a war with somebody with that mindset.
Willing to die and kill.
Instead of dispersing conversing with the fear and the perceived threat,
Right.
and realizing this person is no threat to you at all.
Right.
Let's talk without the preconceived notion that they want to destroy your way of life or something.
Yes.
And find some true common ground to work on. That's the majority of conflicts.
And there's plenty of common ground.
Yeah.
Like, and you wouldn't know it based on the media or whatever you follow, whatever you listen to, what most people are trying to separate always. People are always looking to separate and to divide people and to pit this group against this group and this group against that group, and that's a way to get ratings and maintain power and make money and all those things. That's how it happened. And social media has exacerbated that. And humans just have a tendency to naturally want to do that, which is very unfortunate.
It's part of our nature.
It can easily be exploited. It's very frustrating. It's a true problem. But anytime I've ever taken the time to actually get to know someone, I don't think I've ever thought negatively of them in terms of their intent, their spirit, their heart.
You can disagree.
Sure, all the time.
Like, that's a really, really bad idea, and I will fight against that idea.
Right.
But you are a wonderful person.
Right.
And I know that in your heart you want what's good. And, I don't have to try to vilify you to get my point across, right? Anyways, I'm not trying to say Saren's the salt of the earth. But what I am trying to say is...
No, because he killed his longtime friend.
What I'm trying to say is he's been indoctrinated and controlled.
You know what? He may have been the salt of the earth. How long has this Reaper ship had control over him?
If you've read the novel... if you've read the novel Revelation...
Yeah.
He's a bit what do you call it?
He's
where
the
you can't feel emotions of others very well.
Sociopath.
He's a bit of
Sociopathy. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely has some sociopathy going on.
Okay.
And so, but that's a mental illness.
I know. I was going to say that's a mental illness. Does that mean that he's evil because he has a brain defect?
We've talked about that with in some other podcast. We talked about a drug that could cure psychopathy. What would we do with those people if they could be reinstated technically back? Anyways, there's just so many complications that go into why people do what they do.
And Saren just opens the door for all of this, where it's like, my gosh, he is trying to save humanity. Yeah. This whole game, we've been thinking he wants to destroy humanity.
Well,
and as soon as we get to talk to him,
organic
say,
life.
When I say that word, yes, you're right, you're correct. He wants to save the biotic organic life. And as soon as we meet, or he wants to kill it. We think he wants to kill everything. And as soon as we meet him, he's saying, no, I want to save as many people as can possibly be saved. Because he thinks that if we just let things go their course, that 0 people will live. There will be this many. And if he can get 1,000 people to live on as slaves, then he has saved 1,000 lives, whereas otherwise it would be 0, something like that. And he has a good argument.
Yeah.
Because when you see the vision of the Reapers and you know what's possible, you know what's coming, and if you can save one life, then that'll be so wonderful. So he is trying to do a good thing. He thinks he is doing the right thing by saving the world, and we think we're doing the right thing by saving the world. The only difference is your definition of what kind of life is more valuable than the other kind of life. Yes. And is the number of lives more valuable, or is the quality of life more valuable?
Yes.
Or is the subservience versus, free/dead, possibly, almost 100% dead, which is what is the more valuable type of life?
Is that life?
And that's a value judgment on life. That's almost like that's like a religious discussion, the disagreement here is on a very thin line.
Yeah.
Yet mortal enemies have to kill each other, and it's true, they do. They have to kill each other in order to save the world in their own way. Yeah. It's so screwy, but I love these types of ethical conundrums. I think it's wonderful. And this game did it very well.
I think they did a good job kind of giving you a new dimension to Saren there right at the end.
Yes. Yeah, right before he
Even
leaves.
though, you don't excuse him, he's definitely a villain, whatnot. Especially if you've read the novel that comes before this.
Yeah, I have not.
But yeah, it's just an extra dimension that he didn't have before, and I think that they did a good job with that.
Yeah, I love that. I was kind of hoping he wouldn't be the main the main bad guy, because he's just a dude. He's just like we are, you know.
He's just a Spectraturian guy.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, you fight him off, and you escape with Ashley or Caden, who you saved, and you get off, and you go back into orbit. And the explosion,
Yes.
This is kind of like in FF8, right?
Yeah.
Where that massive explosion, where it's like there's no way those our characters survived that blast. This is like, I don't know, 1,000 times the yield of that.
I know, it's so big.
It's like from orbit, it's just like this. It's like a freaking asteroid.
Yes,
impact.
It's so big.
Ridiculous how large it is.
And there's a problem with the, at least on Earth, were something like that to be detonated on Earth. And we're not wearing masks, and the gravity seems normal. So you'd think this planet's comparable to Earth, right?
Yeah.
By the way, this whole sequence and this whole planet and everything reminds me a lot of Rogue One.
Oh, yeah.
Almost
That's
exactly
true,
Rogue One. But there would be a ceiling. Have you ever seen like a volcano erupt and it hits the stratosphere, I think, where all of a sudden the smoke just stops. It's flat, and it just kind of goes outwards from there.
Because the particles are too heavy.
That should have happened here, and it didn't. Basically, the explosion escaped the atmosphere because it was so big. But they wouldn't have looked that big unless they did that, you know? Because I thought about it, and I was like, that kind of would have looked funny if they did the stratosphere barrier and had the cloud just kind of go. It would look too flat. It wouldn't have looked as big.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of funny. But in any case, then you get a call from the Citadel saying, time to, you try to report to them and be like, what is it that Shepard says? Like, okay, we know he's after the conduit, and we got to go into the terminus systems. And they're like, no, we can't go into the terminus systems.
Yeah, they'll think it's an invasion.
And blah, 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 blah. But then, like, you kind of argue with them about that. But then as you go back to the galaxy map, there's a report that comes in and says, okay, they are going to do something about it. We got to go back. And, Ambassador Udina and the council want...
Yes, Udina calls us back. Yeah.
And it's like they are going to send a fleet.
Right.
Or something like that. And so they're going to tell you what they're going to do, right?
Yeah, we got to regroup and plan.
You head back with a lot of hope that they've come around, but it turns out that they've just basically redoubled their defenses. It's like, he can never get in now. It's like, you don't get it. The Reapers, I spoke with... The whole time they were sitting there, continued to deny the existence of the Reapers. Shepard was trying to say, but Saren said in his own words, we talked with him, and this, and they're like, the word of some like Spectre is not. Anyways, they try to continue. It's like, why are you not saying I spoke with it?
With the Reaper.
Spoke directly to the Reaper.
You're right. I forgot. They kind of gloss over that.
No, it's not. This is not secondhand knowledge that I spoke to Saren and Saren confirmed to me.
Yeah.
I spoke to it.
What's it called? What's
Sovereign.
its name? Sovereign.
I spoke to it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
the whole
time I was just yelling at my screen.
Yeah.
Tell them you spoke to it.
I don't know that would have made a difference.
Maybe
though,
not.
Really. This is one of those things. Remember in Harry Potter, the 5th book?
Yeah, the Phoenix Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, where the Minister of Magic is like, Voldemort can't be bad.
Refuses to
I
believe
refuse to even entertain the possibility that Voldemort could come back during my administration. That would sink my career, you know?
There is something that's very true about the tendency to deny something when it's really bad like that.
Especially if you think it's possible. It's like, well, if that's possible, it's going to destroy humanity. So, who cares?
I mean,
let's just pretend it's not possible, and if it is,
seen it.
There was nothing we could do anyway.
You've seen it with climate change I remember I was watching a video the other day where it was unbelievable. It was like prophetic. Carl Sagan was talking about in like 1987 or something like that.
Yeah.
What is going to happen in the Rocky Mountains by the year 2022 or whatever he said now.
Oh, I'd have to watch that.
He's talking about the Colorado River drying up, this extreme drought, and like all the. And this was in the middle of the really bad drought we just had in the summer.
Oh,
when I was watching this, I was just like,
wow.
Literally everything he just said, not even just about the Rocky Mountains and the drought, but like the type of storms we would see, the hurricanes and things that would affect these regions.
Sure.
And it was just like all this being like buried in the sea, and over here just like drying up entirely, and people are going to have to move out like more towards like the central part of the country to get water. And
Well, that's not happening, but
not yet, but like that's the next step.
Right,
like, anyways, I'm doing a terrible job of summarizing what he said, because what he said was like literally to the freaking letter exactly what happened.
that's crazy.
And he was saying in there the tendency to deny that that's happening.
Right.
And how that's the actual part that they have to fight against. It's like solving this problem scientifically, like
is possible.
We have a way to do that.
Yeah,
The part that we as scientists really have to focus on is how can we convince people to not buy into their denial that this is happening. Because
you have to get rid of democracy. You need to institute a monarchy.
Well, because he said...
Because you're always going to have a 50-50
He was like,
split,
there's been many times where science has made these kinds of predictions that were wrong. And that really does us a disservice because it's going to make it very easy for people to deny this. But we're not wrong about this.
Right.
This is actually going to happen. And it's like all the models and like it all checks out. Like, I promise this is going to happen. But we have to change how we talk about it or how we approach it in order to get the people who can do something about it to believe it's happening. But all this time, basically no measures were taken to do anything about it. And a lot of people just deny that it's real. And that's exactly what's happening here in the game. And there is a real tendency when you're faced with something that massive, instead of when you, it's just like, oh, that can't. No, that can't be happening.
Right.
It's just like the way for our brains to be able to deal with the stress of such a monumental, apocalyptic sort of problem.
Yeah.
To say, no, I don't believe that that's actually happening.
Right.
So, as frustrating as it is, and as maybe not quite convincing in its execution as it might be for the council to be this stubborn about not believing,
what could they do?
It is still true to life.
Yeah, what are they going to do? It's like, oh great,
this
this for sure doom is upon us. Like, what are we going to go shoot it with our pew pew guns? Like, oh, go to the conduit and invade? Like, that's a real risk, is invading and risking an actual war. If the Reapers are our overlord gods who are going to kill us at their pleasure, what are we going to do about that? Like, let's just deal with what we got, and if God comes and kills us all, then that's what happens, you know? What were we going to do against that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
So, anyways, that's where we left off for this week. They ground Shepard because he's threatening to go himself. I'm just going to take the Normandy. I'm just going to go to the freaking conduit. I'm just going to stop Saren myself. And they're like, okay, Udina in particular is like, I think you've done enough here.
You're hurting humanity at this point.
They're going to ground Shepard so he can't leave.
But basically, it's like you've helped humanity, because the ambassador is all about just his political situation. Yeah. He's like, you've given humanity this many golden stars. You're just ruining it now. Yeah. So please leave. Get out of here. Exactly. We don't need you anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're left. We're left in a situation where it's like, okay, how are we going to get off the Citadel? How are we going to go after Saren and the conduit and stop him from what he's going to do? And so that's going to be it for next week. Next week, you just finish the game, complete the story.
Sweet.
And we'll wrap this
We're almost out of stars.
We're almost out of the Milky Way galaxy, dude. You see the last remnants of the last stars.
So that's the terminus, or that's the outskirts.
Yeah, that's beyond the Perseus Veil to the outer darkness where the Reapers lie, way outside of the galaxy. All right. Oh, vote. Vote for the next game.
For things.
Vote for the next game.
And become patrons.
See ya. Peace out.